Hello, everyone. We've reached the end of our Drowned City first looks. Again, these are cards that we've generally not played with. There's a couple here that I've played with that I'll talk about. So, early reviews. We could be totally wrong about these, but we're just giving you our thoughts. Ready for it?
I am indeed ready. These are the high level ones, so these should be even more specialized than specialized, right?
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, whatever that means, right? And we'll talk about like the special list cards, I think, at the end too, just as a whole. Kind of said that we would last time. By the way, I don't know when the other video came out last week. This week is this video. I don't know if the video that I recorded with Justin talking about specialist cards came out already or will come out in the future, but I don't remember what I said. That was like a month ago. So it's okay if I say different things this time. We're allowed to change our mind.
Indeed.
All right. So the first one we'll look at here is Storm Ruler. I know I remember talked about this with Justin. I was like, I don't understand this card. So at 4 XP, level 4 card, cost 3, Blessed. Oh, Clairvoyance, Sorcerer deck only. Oh, I forgot. I need to do the thing where I show you the who can take these. Hold on one second. Okay, here it is. So we've got Agnes, Carol Agnes, Akachi, Dexter, Gloria, Jacqueline, Koaku, Marie, Sister Mary, and Parallel Wendy as our lone non-mystics here. Okay,
I see a lot of purple on this
a
list.
lot of purple. Well, let's look at the card itself. Fight. Add your willpower value to your skill value for this attack. Big surprise, right? If this attack is successful, in addition to its standard damage, you may exhaust Storm Ruler to deal 1 damage to an enemy at your location for each skull, cultist, tablet, and Elder Thing symbol revealed during this attack to a maximum of 3 additional damage. So you do 1 damage with the fight. Then
Yep.
there's an additional effect of maybe 1, 2, 3 additional damage. So that this is like nice for something like Scarlet Keys, which cares about having extra sources of damage. This will count as an extra source. The
True.
problem is, how often is that going to happen for this to deal, more than the regular 2 damage you get from a weapon?
Well, I mean, I'm uh in the Mystic class. It does seem that there are a lot of tools to get this done, especially in this expansion, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, I God damn it, what is her name? I keep forgetting her name.
Agatha?
Uh, no, the token lady.
Oh,
Uh,
Katarina, or whatever her name is, right?
oh no, the other one.
Olive?
Yes, thank you. I don't know why I can't remember Oliver Pride. Um, I mean, this seems insane in Oliver Pride. You could basically like guarantee getting like at least an extra symbol off of Oliver Pride 2, right? Um,
Mm-hmm.
and then it's possible that you can get +2 because she resolves 2 tokens, right?
She
Um,
resolves 2, right? So this is like
yeah,
the struggle for me is like, okay, even in Olive 2, because that's the only way you can get 2 more tokens resolved.
right.
How do you get even more than that?
True. I get that is fair.
And the answer, unfortunately, is this, business with revealing tokens or
Oh,
not.
right.
Yeah, so Rod of Carnimagos, right?
Correct.
So if you can manage to reveal other tokens during the skill test itself, then
Well,
it sort of works, right? But
yes, I agree.
the other issue is that even for Olive, you reveal 4, but not really. You're only revealing 2. Your
Correct.
resolve, so like it's running into the same reveal resolve problem. I brought this card over here just to sort of show that I wish Stormruler had this text
Mm.
on it, even if it was canceled or ignored. That would make it much easier to pull this off.
I agree, although with maybe one caveat, and I think that would be this weapon would be insanely strong then, in my opinion. Um,
Yeah, I mean, this is sort of the problem with weapons, though, is that there's like the mode of dealing 1 damage is terrible,
sure.
and the mode of dealing, 2 is acceptable, and 3 and 4 is, really good.
Yeah.
For 4 XP in this very small list of investigators, uh, I mean, yeah, it takes up 1 hand slot. I guess that's good, but this only happens once per round because you have to exhaust it to do this at all.
That is a fair point. Yeah. Um, I don't necessarily have an issue with the power level per se. I think it is. in my opinion, I think it's fair, especially when we come to melee weapons, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if it was 5 XP, then we run into issues of comparing against something like the Time War brand, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I think that in this particular case, it has it. You're right. It has like a lot of gates of surrounding like abusing it. Except for one, which is Radokar Magos. But let's ignore that for a second.
Mm-hmm.
Um, like my only issue with this is that this absolutely is a Mystic card, and I don't understand why it's not a Mystic card.
Yeah. So even look at the different investigators who can take it for a second. So I compare this to, I mean, like what melee weapons you can get in the Mystic class are basically Dragon Pole that do anything.
Yes, and the weird Doom ones that we got 2 expansions ago.
Yes, the ceremonial sickle. Okay, and
Yeah.
that one at least takes up only one hand slot. But for
Yep.
0 XP, uh, and I don't think that the Dragon Pole is that big of a deal to add, two things in your arcane slots pretty easily. For
Mhm.
0 XP, right? That requires you to get +2, you need to have two things in your slots. This basically says for these investigators, you're just adding your willpower anyway, so it's like 7 for most of these, 8 for
Yeah.
Kachi and Dexter,
Yep.
7 for basically everyone else.
Yep.
That's not too far off from Dragon Ball.
That's true.
Yeah, I mean maybe not in these investigators in particular, but like as a weapon. And I don't know. I don't want to spend. So what you can do with Dragon Poles, you can spend 3 actions and deal 6 damage probably.
Hmm.
How do you get 6 damage out of this? You need to have 2 attacks without exhausting deals 2 damage, and then your last attack has to do 4 just
Do
to
4.
make it catch up with kind of the fully kitted out Dragon Pole.
Yeah. I think part of this is that you can choose when that happens, so there's flexibility there.
Mm-hmm.
I also just realized, and this is maybe like a campaign thing, but most of the time, or I should say, a lot of the time, cultists usually draw another token as well.
That's true.
So it's possible to draw another one off the cultist. I do think that this would probably be more fair if this had like the any symbol revealed. I think that would make this a lot more fair, because then you could mess with like bless and curse stuff as well.
Then it would
although
be
maybe in
pretty
those
easy to
instances,
get it, right? Then you
it'd be
can,
really, really easy, right?
yeah.
So maybe it's too easy in that case. But I mean, honestly, I think that would have been fine, because it still has to exhaust, right? You're right.
Mm-hmm.
So you're right. This is like, and it's also, I think the one thing also pulling it down for me is that it's unique.
Oh yeah.
So you can't have 2 of them out and like exhaust one, then exhaust the other. That would have been nice as well, being able to do that. So maybe I think I'm seeing where you are right now, that there's like at least 3 different things that are like trying to bring this card down. So
And to me, it's the 4 XP. Like if this was a level 3 card, maybe even level 2. At the moment we have a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 investigators who can take this, and one of them's parallel. Like it runs into the same specialist problem of the power level could be higher, given that it's pretty hard to pick this up.
yeah.
Anyway, I do think it's kind of cool. Like I want to play this and then be like, it's, you can imagine this having like the lightning effect of like it changes from one enemy to the next or something. But it's like they tried it and then had to gate this a few extra ways just to make it not totally busted. And that's kind of what I'm talking about. Is like 1 damage is terrible, but doing 4
then they
or
also
something every
can't
time.
have it.
Yeah, it's
Exactly.
crazy.
They can't have it reliably deal 2 damage either, I feel.
Yeah.
Because then it'd be too good. So it's a tight rope they're walking.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's true. Because like again, Mystic only gets the ceremonial sickle, which is the same level, by the way, right?
Yeah.
That does 2 damage. It's not reliable either. It needs a little bit of doom manipulation. But I kind of feel like that you might as well just take that and deal with the doom rather than be kind of at the whims of this one. But maybe not. Maybe you have access to both, right? You could have one in one hand and one in the other hand. It feels like an offhand weapon in a class that doesn't have on-hand weapons.
Right. Which again makes it it should have been a Mystic card for sure.
Yep. Okay. Let's move on. I'll get rid of this. Motivational Speech 4. This is a really interesting card because it is level 4 of a card that exists in a class, which is a Guardian card. Let's see who can take it, which is only a few people, I think.
Yep. None of them Guardians, by the way.
None of them Guardian. Okay. Well, we've got at least a variety of classes. So we've Alessandra, Charlie Kane, of course, George, Jenny, Parallel Jenny, Jim, Parallel Jim, Lola, Marie, Patrice, Preston, and Stella. So yeah, performer here is a little strange. I don't know. That doesn't really make a whole lot of sense to me, but
Like an orator.
yeah, but that's not what Jim or Patrice do, but sure. Maybe Marie. Anyway, the card is very similar to the level 0 version that you've seen before. I think it has a few more icons, or just maybe the one wild icon.
Yes, that's right.
All right, so it's a parlay, as before. Choose investigator at your location. That investigator may play an ally asset from their hand at no cost. Then, this is also new, that investigator may trigger an action or free-triggered ability on that asset, ignoring all costs. So yeah, before it was just reduce the cost by 3. This time it's at no cost, and then you get to do an ability on it, which is super cool.
Roll.
I will note before we go further that it's hilarious to me as the resident templating curmudgeon that we have both at no cost and ignoring all costs on here.
Amazing.
And they actually kind of mean different things according to some rulings. They say that at no cost really means
Resource cost. Right?
Resource cost, yeah.
Yep. Yep. Yeah, because otherwise you could play it like it wouldn't get cost an action or something.
Yeah, and so that means that, again, this is all up in the air and they haven't really codified that, but they really should, because it does make sense that it's at no resource cost, considering the other one was, reducing its cost.
Yep.
But your Summon Hound friend, they've ruled that does not ignore the additional costs that are not resource cost. Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. I'm okay with that, personally.
I'm okay with it too, but I feel like they just need to be, it needs to be more explicit somewhere about what that means.
Yep.
However, the second part, ignoring a cost like on your agency backup. So you don't have to exhaust it. You don't have to put a damage or horror on it to get your free clue or damage. That seems really good, especially when you discount it by 7.
I think it works like this, but like Delilah O'Rourke, her part of her cost is to spend X resources. I believe that could just be X the chosen. You just don't have to spend it.
That's right. Yeah, because it's not, if it said something like deal X damage or something, then it wouldn't work. But since it's just a cost to do the 2 damage, then that's totally fine.
I mean, it's really good. Like I would love to do this. Obviously, like it has the motivational speech problem / ever vigilant problem of like, are you going to have this along with the ally that you want to get into play? Obviously, then it does have the benefit of the motivational speech where it can be someone else at your location, which is really good. So like obviously, I think the only thing I worry about is that it's just like it's a card that requires another card to do anything. But the effect is really good, especially like imagine like paying 0 from Michael Lee and then he just comes in. Like that's so good. Obviously he doesn't do anything when it does, but like I think it's really good.
Play it, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Like that's more resources. That's really good. I think the other interesting part of like how you play this card. So yeah, there's one of like, do you wait on it until you have your really expensive ally? Do you ask around the table? But even would you put this into a deck like, I don't know, a Jim Culver deck or something, if you didn't really have as much use for the ability, but you knew someone else at the table did?
Interesting. Yeah, I would act more of a support card in that instance. I mean, I think that would definitely just be like playing enchant weapon when you don't have any weapons yourself and you just have high brain, right? In those circumstances where those combos, because you can have someone who can get this card and have someone else benefit from it is just like a deck building question that I think depends, I guess. I mean, I think that in certain team compositions that does seem extremely good. Like being able to play for example, Michael Lee, because anyone who can play Michael Lee has no access to this card, so they'd have to have someone else do it. But
Oof, you're
um,
right. No, Charlie.
yeah.
Right.
Oh, Charlie, of course, yeah. So I think that's the real issue, is that like I think that there's a lot of high resource / high level rogue allies that are really good that for example Preston could take or Alessandro could take, and obviously this is another parlay for Alessandro, which is crazy.
That's true.
But
yeah, she can't
so
normally take the level 0 one. Well, none of these folks can except for Charlie. But yeah,
right. Yeah. So like, and also even in Survivor, there's not a lot of high cost survivors. Survivor allies, I should say. They mostly cap out at like 3, maybe. I can't really think of anyone who has cost 4 or higher. in Survivor.
Aquina.
Aquina, yeah. Oh, Granny Orn does. That's
Yeah.
interesting.
And I
Maybe
think
Granny Orn's good.
yeah, yeah, I think they cost 4 and 5. So that,
Yeah.
but still, like, it's weird to put those in your deck and this. I feel like you just
Correct. I think that like survivors rarely ever build around like having allies in the first place. Like having allies is a very Guardian thing, as well as being like Seeker and Rogue stuff. So I think that's like, you know, it has the ability to benefit your other investigators. So you like teams can like plan around that. But if you're taking this yourself, I would like, not a lot of the investigators who can take this would take it just for themselves, except for like Charlie Kane and Alessandro probably.
Okay, so here's the question. Did they want to make this card and then the only way they could figure out how to get it into Charlie was make it a specialist card?
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah, they can't give it the ally trait, huh?
Yeah.
Maybe.
Because he can only take 0 to 2 or neutral, and this is the way to, you know, only allow Charlie to take it, and then some other random people, right?
Right.
Yeah, it's weird. So yeah, I guess if you're Charlie, you can take Down the Rabbit Hole because you're going to be Mystic, and then Guardian as your other class,
Oh,
and then you get a discount.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's odd. Oh, I guess Jim could take level 0.
Yes, that is true. And
Right.
and Lola.
And Lola. All right. Okay, they could do that trick too. Yeah, I don't know about that, but you know, I like the card. I find it awkward. It's awkward. Maybe they also designed the card and said, okay, this is too close to motivational speech level 0, so let's just make it the same title.
Interesting.
I don't know.
Yeah.
But it just is bizarre. I don't know. It does feel like you want to build around this, though. If you're going to bother to put it in your deck for 4 XP, you better have some expensive allies. Yep. Otherwise, the level 0 one is perfectly fine for, you know, those 2 other investigators who can take it. Okay. Let's move on to an ally himself, Archibald McVie. And who can take this guy? Well, none other than Agatha, Amanda, Carson, Daryl, Hank, Kate, Kaku, Lucius, Mandy, Min, Rex, Parallarex. So we've got a few Seekers here and then a smattering of others.
Yep.
Well, what do you do? 4 cost, level 5, so a lot of XP to commit to this. Assistant Reporter Scholar, as we just talked about. 4 secrets, comes in with 4 secrets. I don't know if allies have come in with uses like this before. You get +1 intellect. Secrets on assets you control, like this one, may be spent as resources to pay for insight events you play. I really like the flavor text, so I'll just say that publish or perish, they said. Perhaps we'll do both. 2 health, 3 sanity, ally slot.
You forget Mr. Chessman himself, Eldritch Sophist.
Oh, right. He does come in with secrets. All right. Well, this guy's been unfairly maligned by the community. I think everyone was waiting for some kind of payoff to understand, like, why is this guy a level 5 card? What are you doing with those secrets? That's so important, you know?
Yeah.
And I will say that the only card I could think of that got revealed is Enraptured 2, that that card, you could put 3 secrets on this guy. And then that's basically like 3 more resources you got. That's all I got. Yeah.
I mean, this is definitely, it's like kind of adding to an already existing archetype with the Seeker secret stuff. As we have shown there's ways to add secrets. There's like Eldritch Office where they can move secrets around, and we have like the Ariane's Twine to be able to do stuff like that. So I'm guessing, well, I'm not guessing, but like Ariane's Twine is like is the card, right? And then this is also it. I believe this just gives Ariane's Twine to everything you control. Is that right? Just for inside events. Um,
But Ariadne's Twine kind of already does that, right?
right. As in Ariane's Twine, like you move secrets onto Ariane's Twine at like from resources, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So like Ariane's Twine still lets you spend the secrets as secrets.
That's right.
But this just lets you pay for events with the secrets.
Right.
And so like technically this gets into it like couples itself with the whole inside event archetype thing as well, because it effectively just acts as economy for those. Anyway, what am I trying to say? One, I think that this is clearly just a secret card. I don't understand why they had to do this. And two, like obviously book getting more intellect is good. I don't think that this guy is worth 5 XP at the moment. I don't think that there are like I feel like the insight event archetype is like not a thing at the moment. And like for example, Joe Diamond, who I feel like is like he plays a lot of those inside events, obviously. His whole shtick is that he already has cost reduction for those things anyway. And so I guess that's basically what I'm saying is that like I don't think he currently fits into any niche that exists, but that could change in the future if we see like more things that require the like expensive inside events that are also really good. But I guess that's just my thoughts in the moment.
Yeah, it just sort of confuses me because he costs 4 already. So he refunds you the 4, so essentially. So you're basically getting the +1 intellect and a lot of soak, which is good. I don't see the spending resources to pay for insights to be that big of a deal since they're not that expensive in the first place. And of course, you have, a level 0 seeker card that gets you a resource every turn and kind of pays back after 4 rounds anyway.
Yeah.
Now, granted, a little bit more soak here, but I don't know. Like,
yeah, I think ultimately, yeah, I'm not excited because secrets have never had an issue paying for their inside events, I think.
Yeah. And
yeah.
the secrets tend to be better as secrets. Maybe I'm wrong there, but I feel like your secrets on the Grim Memoir are good because you get a +2 and might be drawing a card. To turn that into 1 resource is kind of weak.
Yeah, I agree. I think like, the fact that the fact that Seeker has such a crazy good card pool, like inherently makes their resources more valuable. Like almost every single Seeker card that has secrets is like really impactful per secret.
That's right.
And so I think I agree basically.
So that leaves us with Daryl, maybe. I don't know. I mean, there are lots of inside events in Survivor also, but
Sure.
There's Shed of Light and whatnot. That's not bad, but I don't know if that's the way you're gonna go about paying for those in Survivor. And then Hank is like totally uninterested, right?
I guess so. I'm trying to see if Kohaku can play. I feel like there's like okay. There's Delve Too Deep.
Okay.
Let's see. There's Drawn to the Flame, which costs 0, so never mind. Meditative Trance.
No.
Moonlight Rituals both cost 0. Quantum Flux
cost 1.
Yeah. Stargazing costs 0. Word of Radiance also costs 0.
Yeah.
Okay, so Kohaku is not getting anything from this.
Right. Other than the Seeker ones, right? But still. Because he gets like the cursed cards.
Blessed and cursed, yeah. And occult. So I guess, yeah, he gets like what does he get?
So the control variable costs 1, I think.
Oh yeah, that's cursed, right?
That's cursed.
I'm
pretty sure it's still insight. So there's a few things there, but I still don't like. This is not what you spend 5 XP in this game, right?
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
if you
Meh.
desperately need that book boost. But
Yeah. Again, I think that like this is in the context of the current card pool we have. In theory, like years down the line, maybe this guy could get better. I think that's kind
maybe,
of where I'm at.
but then some of those investigators also rotate out, and we see some other ones that maybe come in that are maybe more interesting with this. Who knows? But you still have like Dr. Mylon, right? So who's going to be always there.
True.
All right, let's move on to Library Pass. This is the level 5 version, but there's also a level 1 version that we didn't talk about before, so we might as well look at them both at the same time. I believe they're both Miskatonic and Scholar only, so let's just bring up who those folks are, which, surprise, surprise, is probably going to be a lot of uh, Seekers again.
Indeed.
You get the same Agatha Kohaku group here. And then Rita. Rita's here. Rita's Miskatonic. She likes checking things out of the library.
She does.
All right, what do we got? We have level 1 version, cost 2. Only get one of these in your deck. I guess they split up the card space, so you get one level 1 and one level 5 in your Drowned City box. Free triggered ability. During your turn, if there's no asset attached to Library Pass, spend 1 resource. Attach a tome asset from your hand to Library Pass. Doesn't take up any slots. When your turn ends, put it in the bottom of your deck. The end. Okay. Should we... I'll look at the level 5 one as well, and then we can kind of compare them.
Yep.
This one is exactly the same, except for it is permanent in level 5. And the forced effect is when your turn ends, you must either pay 1 resource or place attached asset on the bottom of your deck. So this one, you had to put it on the bottom of your deck. This one is you can pay for it, basically. Paying your library fine. What is unclear at the moment is whether or not this is a error in templating, but even if you have no tome asset, this forced effect kicks in turn 1.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah, I don't know if that's a mistake. Maybe it's not, but I don't know.
Oh, that's interesting. I didn't actually think about that. I would imagine that that's not their intention, right?
Yeah,
but who knows?
You could just add, if there's attached asset, then
yeah, exactly.
Because this one, the forced effect, nothing happens because of the.
There's no attached asset on the bot. Yeah, it just is placed.
Right. And then why is this one work that way? Because you have to choose. You must either, I guess. So you have to pick something that changes the game state.
Yeah, it's also interesting. The spending of resource happens when you attach it for level 1, and then here it's like at the end, right?
That's right. You don't have to pay up front. You're right.
Yeah.
Okay. Forgot about that change. Okay. So this card, both versions really. In fact, we got the level 0 or 1 first, I think, and then later we got the level 5 one spoiled. This one seems like kind of busted, and I was very curious as to why we needed a level 5 version. So like high level, right, idea. Like the high roll here is like you've got the Necronomicon.
Yep.
You spend 1 resource, doesn't take up any slots, doesn't cost you the 3 resources to play it, and then when you finish using the whole thing up, because you can, you place it on the bottom of your deck, and then you use your Scroll of Secrets to draw it again.
During the enemy phase.
Yes, during the enemy phase.
Or actually, it could be just someone else's turn, because there's trigger windows there, I guess.
Yeah, that's fine too. Right, and the level 5 version does not really change the math there, so like the level 5 doesn't do much more, I guess, if all you want to do is loop a particular tome. But is there a world in which you can use this without that kind of abuse? That it's really just, you use it for a little bit, and then you put it on the bottom of your deck, and maybe you'll draw it again some other day, or reshuffle your deck or something.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think that, like, okay, so I think that the level 1 version, yes, is really good, but having only 1 per deck is really bad. Like, I think honestly, I wouldn't say I wouldn't put the level 1 in my deck, because I think if you do draw it and then you play it and you're like, okay, I have everything set up. But it comes down to the thing where it's like this is okay, I do think that this is essentially a combo card where you're trying to get like extra, or not extra, but like maximum value off of various tomes in your deck, and potentially be able to loop them as well. And so finding this piece of the combo is honestly really difficult, because it's, well, yes, is it an item? So items are fairly more searchable than other things. It's not a tome itself, right?
Mhm.
So it's really hard to find this, I think, is the problem.
Well, it is in Seeker though. We do have a lot of card
I
draw, right? I understand like the idea like it is one per deck, so that gates it a bit, but
Yeah.
it's not a ritual or something in Mystic that you've got a hard time tutoring. You do have item synergy. It costs 2, so your Jeremiah Kirby deck probably draws it pretty easily. I don't think
Mm.
you're gonna have a huge problem finding it as you would in maybe some other classes. But I get the point. It is just limit one per deck.
Yeah,
That's kind of
I
sad.
think that I mean I think the thing I'm harping on is the limit one per deck. Like it's unnecessarily gated in that aspect.
Mm.
What I'm trying to say is I think that the level 1 is good. I think that the level 5 is actually the broken one, which is I mean I think having this ability on a permanent card
Mm.
is absolutely nuts. That's my issue because now this is no longer a 2, perhaps 3 card combo. This is a 1 card combo. Um, like even if you're like, I think that, you know, when we get into the not issues but the space where seekers have crazy card draw, um, then it becomes really crazy that the fact that you don't have to search for this, you don't have to pay for it, you don't have to play it. And it's honestly better for the seekers to not pay the resource to keep it attached,
Hmm.
because then they either have shuffle effects or draw effects that will just find it immediately again, anyway, right?
Yeah. So this is a 4 XP upgrade to make a card permanent and also take away this resource cost that the original one
Yeah,
had because it made you pay 2 resources up front, an action to play, and then a resource every time you attach. All right,
yeah.
I'm with you. I got you. I got your point now. This is nuts. Like,
This is nuts. This is absolutely nuts. I think that like there are a couple of cards that are like they go from being an asset to being permanent, and usually they give you two effects. One, you don't have to find it, you don't have to pay for it, and two, the effect is maybe the same or slightly better. I'm talking about like Dark Horse,
mhm.
or the ally one from the Survivor class, right? Dark Horse is literally the same. It's just permanent, right? Because that's an entire build around card, and therefore it'd be nice to just have it as permanent, but the effect of it is still good.
Mhm.
They made this permanent and also made it more busted, I think. Um,
Yeah, especially
so
because you're intending on not spending the resources ever.
yes,
Yeah. Okay, right. I mean, because think about how much the tomes usually cost. Like your Grim Memoir costs 3, Necronomicon costs 3. Some of them are cheaper, but even so, like you're not going to put Old Book of Lore onto this because that's exhausts, right? You want to find all the tomes that you can just run through in one round, and
yeah.
there's a couple that are I think prime candidates. Interestingly, I don't think there's any tomes in this expansion. Am I right about that?
A good question. I don't know, but maybe. So
Well,
far, it seems like it.
yeah,
Yeah.
they usually do give you a tome or two for Daisy, but this is yeah. All right. Well, I think we kind of are done talking about the power level of this card. How about the specialist aspect of it?
I mean, I think this is just this should have just been a secret card again. Like it literally fits in with all the flavor.
Yeah.
Um, yeah.
So for Kohaku, I guess there's a couple of interesting tomes maybe
That's true. That is true.
in
They
Mystic.
he has the Kia Solomon.
Hmm. I don't know. I guess you just spend 1 resource every turn to hold on to it, and it's basically is an extra
Yeah.
hand slot too. Yeah, okay.
And also you didn't pay for the tomes, so that's just paying for it over 2 turns. That's totally fine.
Yeah, that seems okay. There's other things too, but I think that
Oh,
one
oh.
is
Yeah, true magic.
true magic. Okay.
Yeah,
No, he
that's
can't
crazy
take that.
actually. Oh, that's right. He's Kohaku.
Yeah, Daisy Walker though, she can take it, the parallel version.
Oh, parallel, sure, I guess.
Yeah.
Agatha Mystic. Yeah, Agatha Mystic,
Attica.
right?
Yep. Attica could do it.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Okay. Okay.
Norman.
Right. Oh yeah, of course. I forgot he's a Mystic.
Yeah, Norman is a reasonable. Yeah, okay, so like for the seeker problem, right? Norman really does at least get no access to higher level seeker cards, so still there's some level 0 ones that are pretty good.
I mean, also Norman, he has the Astronomical Atlas, which I would be glad they just not never have to pay for it and pay for it over 3 turns. That seems fine with me. Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, I still don't want to spend 2 extra, but I guess it's probably fine.
Yeah.
You'll make up the money. Rita, I'm gonna hold on to Schaffner's catalog and
I mean, that's not a bad one.
Yeah.
Like, you have one resource less, you put on the bottom to refill it, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Although she doesn't have a lot of shuffle effects, I feel.
No. It's just a funny idea.
Yeah.
Okay, good card, but like some other ones here, it feels like that doesn't need to be a specials card. All right, let's move on to card that I spoiled. This is the Mauser that I mispronounced in the video.
Tonkaver.
There we go. Tonkaver. Okay, M1918. This one gets to be taken by hunters, veterans, and wardens. I've been over this before, but let's just show you again that it's an interesting set here. But kind of the problem I have with it is, the card is kind of neat to play with, but if you have access to other kinds of weapons, why would you take this? But you might be Dexter, you might be Father Mateo, might be Hank. Michael McGlynn, I think he's got plenty of access to other weapons. But Will York, maybe not as much. Whoops. Uh-oh. Press the button. Okay, let's go back. Okay, so what does this thing do? Well, it comes in with 1 shell. It's also pretty expensive. It costs 4. I mean, that's not as expensive as lightning gun or something, but still. You get 1 shot. If it's ready, you could spend that 1 shell, fight, get +5, which is incredible, and then you deal 4 damage base. So 1 + 3. That's a lot. And then you can spend another action to exhaust it and replenish it. So importantly, when I how to think this through, the play pattern is a little awkward. So on your turn, you can spend the shell, and then you can replenish it, but then it's exhausted, so you can't ready it again, except for some of these other cards we've seen that ready cards like.
It is not the Ornate Bow.
No, it's not the Ornate Bow. So what's the other one? The Bulwark card from Guardian lets you ready cards. So, like theoretically, you can do something there to replenish shells and fire again. But if you are dividing like actions per damage, which is not a fair analysis, but it's at least something. It does 2 damage per action.
Hey, we did it!
Yeah. And unlike the Ornate Bow, there's no way to get more uses on it. So you have to go through this song and dance. The problem is, to me, if you end your turn with no shells on it, which is possible because you want to fire again or something.
That's annoying.
Then the next round, the only way to replenish it is to exhaust it, and you can't fire it again that round either.
Yep.
So is that really what you want to do with your 2 hand slots? Probably not.
Probably not. I do think that in off class or like non access to hand firearms, right?
Yeah.
This does go up in stock. I think you said this in your own video, but like having this in Dexter seems like it could be really good. I feel like Hank could really use this as well. Even that, like he has some hand slot weapons that he can use, but like not a ton.
Not a ton.
Right? And so like I think that the issue with this is that obviously it's 5 XP, so you kind of want to be like, this is the card that's going to make my deck work. And in a lot of cases, I think that this is too expensive XP wise to like actually go for it. Like there might be other methods that are better suited in those classes to dealing with enemies. In the circumstance where you have like, your main ways of fighting, say, I don't know, Father Mateo with spells, for example, this can kind of act like an offhand weapon, because it can, like, it has that reliable, like, once per round thing of shooting, right?
Sort of.
And so, yeah, sort of. And so, like, I think the interesting bit is that it's yes, you're getting the same damage over time of +1 damage per fight, but you're also compressing it into a single action where there's like technically less to go wrong. So I don't know.
Especially for Father Mateo, right? Pretty much guaranteed.
Exactly. Guaranteed, yeah. So I mean, I think there's benefits there, but otherwise, I don't think that this has too much of a home just because there are better options.
Yeah. I just fear for this being something you put into play and you spent 4 resources and 5 XP and you're stuck with no shells on it and you need to use it.
Right.
So even like Michael McGlenn, you're like, hey, here's a firearm. I'll get at least a resource back. No, you don't. I don't think it's an ammo. Not an
Nope.
ammo. Right. But even in Dexter or York or something where you say, well, if it's out of shells, I'm going to just replace it with something else, which you can do without spending actions or whatever.
Yeah.
What a horrible investment for your ability. Right? Like the whole point of Dexter playing level 0 Switchblade is to have it be able to turn into something else, right? This for like a one-time 4 damage attack, maybe you can do it twice, but it's gonna get you an extra action in the right order, I suppose. That's like good, but I don't know if it's 5 XP 2 hand slot good. I'd try it, but again, it runs into the same problem I have with weapons at these higher levels. It's like they're very awkward because either they don't do enough damage or they do too much damage, but they're too difficult to reuse.
That's true. I mean, that's part of the reason why I've never actually played shotgun. Because like, yes, it has an insane ceiling for how much damage it can do, but like, you have to get it out. You have to, pay for it, and then you have to like pump it yourself to deal a ton of damage. And then there's only 2 ammo on it. So you have to fill the rest of your deck with other, more copies of shotgun or more ways to put more ammo on it.
Mm-hmm.
And this has neither of those safety valves where you literally cannot put extra ways to get the damage out except by taking that bottom action.
Yep.
So I think that's a tricky bit.
Yeah. So again, you can, figure out how to to ready it or something, and maybe that's worth jumping through some hoops if you want to have some fun. I've heard of people try to theory craft a Father Mateo deck that puts us in for like 5 XP or something, and then put Transfiguration in, and then transfigure into Ashcan Pete.
Yeah, there you go.
So you discard a card to ready an asset you control. It's funny. It's really funny.
It'll work.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you still need to put the shell back on.
Yeah. So, but you exhaust it right with that action, and then you ready it again, so you can fire it the same round. You don't wait for it to ready at the end of the round.
All right.
Okay, let's move on to the second row here. We've got a few cards, and then there's like a pile here. We've got Dimensional Vortex. This is another 5 XP card. Spoiler alert, the rest of them are. It's a spell. And Performer and Sorcerer. I feel like we've heard those two a lot today. And we've got... It's an event. We've got more Mystics. Agnes, Akachi, Dexter, Jim, Lola, Marie, Patrice. Okay.
Very small amount of mystics, but basically all mystic.
So, it's a spell, so that makes sense now. Fast, play when the investigation phase begins. Choose a location. Set aside each non-elite enemy at the chosen location, keeping all tokens and attachments. Until the end of the round, they are not at any location and are immune to player card effects. When the round ends, return each of these enemies to the chosen location exhausted. Max once per game. And there's a little bit in the insert for the box that says that if that round, at the end of the round, that location is no longer in play, then they just get discarded.
Yep.
I think this is super cool, right?
It's really cool. Imagine if Luke Robinson could take this and choose his place. That'd be amazing.
Yeah.
Anyway,
that's why enemies can't enter your the gate box.
Oh, right. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Okay. So I think that this card for me is very like on a knife edge because yes, the effect is awesome. I think it's really, really cool. Because they return exhausted, it's kind of like you evaded all of them because it happens when the round ends, not before they ready.
That's right.
And so like it's effectively like cunning distraction, but also an extra round. It's like you're stunning all of them, right? And also like they it's fast, and also they don't exist, so you can just kind of move through them.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that like for me, the benefit of this card is definitely very campaign dependent. There's going to be campaigns where I feel like this will do absolutely nothing. And then there are campaigns where this will literally win you an entire scenario.
Yeah.
And so that's the tricky bit. And then the other tricky bit is that it's max once per game. And so, like, is there even a reason for you to get a second copy of this card for consistency's sake if you can't play the second card? I think is an interesting question about that as well. And so I think that's kind of the tricky bit of that. But like
a lot of XP though for a second copy that doesn't do much, right?
exactly, and it won't do anything the second time you draw it, but it being a second copy in your deck acts as consistency for you drawing it in the first place. There's a benefit there. Anyway, I think it's really good. I don't know if it's worth it, quote unquote, unless you know exactly what scenario you're doing, and then you're like, okay, we're doing this scenario. I'm bringing this card that will just win us the game, and then that'll be it.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of which scenarios would be really good. Clearly, the Innsmouth one, the In Too Deep. You can really basically keep the enemies from catching up to you. I'm not thinking of a good one where you'd want to move through that location other than potentially Doom of Etzley in Forgotten Age.
Right. That one's still tough because they're kind of spread out most of the time.
Exactly. That's the part I was a little bit struggling to think of. Is there a situation where it's easy to get them all into the same location? And the answer is maybe you need some other tech for that, but
yeah, then you're kind of just building your own combo at that point.
Yeah. The problem is that you have to do it at the beginning of the investigation phase. So even if you did like, what is it, Shroud of Shadows or something that moves enemies, you can't do that really. I mean, you kind of can, but you're building. Do you build a board state in which you're throwing 3 or 4 enemies into the same location? If you're playing 2-player, is this like never going to happen?
Right. I think that this one is like, 4-player game. Everyone's on the same location. Everyone draws an enemy, and they were like, "Oh God, okay, play this card." Now none of them exist. We can do whatever we want. Then they come back exhausted when we've already left, for example.
Okay, that's cool.
Yeah. So like circumstances where that happens is a little bit rare, but like I don't know, like I know that we've already broken this scenario, but in horror and high gear, this seems really good. Because then you can put them in the back, and either they will get discarded or will stay back there for another round and cause the road to get longer.
Yeah, that's right.
So,
yeah. So Sorcerer makes sense. Performer, I don't know. I guess it's like they're playing a spell or something with their musical instrument.
I have no idea.
But unfortunately, it's just another. It's another Mystic card because Patrice there's no way she's going to have this in her hand at the right moment, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Again, I honestly wish that this would seem like a really cool Mystic card. Yeah. That'd be really cool.
Gloria would love this, right? You could line up the counter deck.
Maybe I'm glad that Gloria can't take this out. That's disgusting.
Well, all right. Yeah, it gets a bit of a whiff again for me. It's tough to judge these 5XP events too because it's a tough design space.
Yeah.
Because they have to be powerful one-shots, but also not so overcosted that it's not worth investing in. So
what do you feel about the max once per game thing?
Yeah, so they basically didn't want you to recur this. Maybe they could remove it from the game instead and let you do it twice with a second copy.
That's the trick, right? Is they could have just said remove this from the game, but then their argument is like, oh, but what if everyone has 2 copies of Dimensional Vortex, right? And are we at the point where if everyone is putting 10 XP into their deck for a single card, that they need to stop that from happening?
No.
No. So I don't know.
I'm with you on that. I wonder why they chose that, but I don't think this effect is so game winning because you win the game by doing other things and more consistently. But at least it's easy to find. It's a spell.
That's true. That is true.
Okay. Let's move on to a very cool card. Memories of Another Life. This one has 4 traits, and we've got that Sorcerer trait again, so you're going to see some of these same investigators one more time. So it's a skill. We don't have too many level 5 skills in the game, but this is one of them. Agnes Akachi, Dexter, Father Mateo, Lucius, Luke, Marie, Safina. Better be Safina. She's in the art. Sister Mary, Zoe, and Zoe. It's actually kind of a shorter list than I thought too.
Yeah.
But
I mean, I think this is the one argument that you can make for making sure that Safina can take this, even though this could have just been a Mystic card again.
yeah.
I guess.
I wonder if they could have done this where it's like, off class of the trait or off class of the main trait could take it as well, because we see that a
Oh,
lot with
interesting.
Patrice on these lists of Mystic cards,
Yeah, that's true. Like it's a level 2 card, but it's chained +3 or something.
something like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so Memories of Another Life is a really, really interesting card because it says after you commit it, right, you get the 2 wild icons, which is nice. But you may remove this from the game to search your collection for any non-permanent level 0 card, even if it doesn't meet your deck building requirements. Play that card at no cost, which,
Resource
again,
cost.
probably no resource cost. So you kind of call into question things like thorough inquiry and whatnot if it can ignore that additional action cost. But okay. At the end of the game, return that card to your collection. Okay. Um, let me just, since we're talking about the rules, I had a question about this. I talked about, I think on, I don't know, it was somewhere where it's a little bit awkward to think about what the card is supposed to do after you play it. I believe the intention should be that it just goes into your discard pile. But we know that from other rulings in the game and just the game rules themselves, like when you control something that didn't belong in your deck at the beginning of the scenario or isn't added to your deck in the middle of a scenario, then you remove the card from the game when it leaves play. Like if you get a story ally, you get your Thomas Dawson or something,
Yeah.
who can never really start in your deck. Well, sort of. There's one scenario where he maybe does. Anyway, if he dies and he doesn't go into the discard pile, you can't recur him. Is that the case for this? There's an argument either way. One is, yes, the rules say if something didn't start in your deck, then you are not the owner of the card. Therefore, when it would enter an out of play area, it just gets removed from the game instead. But who is the owner of the card, right?
Right.
It's not like the scenario owns the story assets. That's not like that. So
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think that this should probably just say either should say like you own this card, or it should imply that you own your collection, right?
That's the
Because
silly,
then you own the card.
right? That's a silly thing, right? I hate to make the argument of like, do you own your collection?
Yeah.
But what the real reason why that I don't want to say it that way is because you could be playing with 3 other players and you're all using your same collection, right? The collection just means the cards that you use to build your deck. Doesn't mean like things you paid for.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, so I think it's very interesting you say that. So I don't know if you're aware, but and also I mentioned this a while ago when we were talking about um, Transfiguration,
Hmm.
but in Magic the Gathering, they have an inherent rule for what happens when you bring cards in from outside the game, and that is because you always have to choose something that you own from outside the game in order to bring it in, and so that inherently makes the card a card that you own. Because that would basically fix everything if there was the same ruling as that.
Yeah. The thing is just these 2 cards are basically new effects that we've never seen bring
Yeah.
things from outside the game into your deck. Because I think, as I said before, like bonded cards still count as being in your deck to some extent. They're basically just set aside at the beginning of the game. So this is just a little different. I know like rules minutia here that doesn't really matter because the intention probably, well, it's one way or the other, but probably it's that it just goes in your discard pile so you can,
Yeah.
redraw the Dynamite Blast that you played, play it later. I don't know
Yeah.
if it matters too much with the power level, but it's just a question of the templating here.
Anyway, speaking of what this card does, yeah, I mean, I think the community has already kind of narrowed down a lot of like great options for this card. As you just said, Dynamite Blast is a great one because like playing that for free at no cost seems really, really good.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's other people that are like, play Leo DeLuca if you don't have a good ally. I'm like, yeah, that's good. He has like tons of value, especially at 6 resources. Gets you an extra action for at least a few more rounds, right?
And the fact that you don't have to follow your deck building requirements, right, makes it even more powerful.
Exactly. And so like I haven't really looked at the list, but I'm sure that there's like really really good things that people can find. I think Dynamite Blast is a good example because it is a high cost event, or I should say high cost, high impact
Mm-hmm.
event as well. And so if there are other cards that are like that that can be used in kind of generic situations, um, I think that would be great candidates for this.
So I feel like this card is different than compared to Transfiguration because that one kind of requires you to build around that other investigator. So your deck building already takes that into consideration. I don't think this card needs that. This one, you when you choose to use it, you are deciding what is the most important thing for the scenario right now. And sometimes that might be Dynamite Blast. Sometimes that might be Leo DeLuca. Sometimes it's Cunning Distraction. And it can differ from scenario to scenario. And I think that's a strength of this card that makes you not just have a couple of cards set aside and those are always your go-tos. Although if you're going to go to a con or something, maybe don't bring all every binder you own and dig through, right?
Yeah.
So I think
Yeah,
that's
I mean,
fun.
I think I had that thought where, in my opinion, Transfiguration at least had the aspect of it could be flexible, where if you like could bring, in theory, a couple of different investigators that can suit the situation.
Mm-hmm.
But I agree that this card is much more the case.
Yep.
This card is like, I don't think that, maybe there are combos that you could find with this card at level 0, but I think that the pure value of this is its flexibility.
Yeah.
As opposed to Transfiguration having most of its value be the fact that it unlocks things that you normally wouldn't be able to do. This one has just a ton of flexibility.
That's right. That's kind of what I meant. I think when we talked about Transfiguration, we both agreed that it's more interesting if it's not just I'm building around, a different investigator, period, but more that you're not putting it into your deck, Transfiguration, unless that is your game plan.
Yeah.
And this one, I think this is just value. You will never be unhappy to commit this to a test and find something that you're going to get out of it. It could be 2 free clues with extensive research.
Could be 2 free clues. Yeah, I mean that is really good. If I recall, because of the ruling about at no cost, the double cards would still require you to spend an action. Is that right?
That's my understanding, yes.
Okay. So like bank job / the other one that draws cards.
Thorough inquiry, yeah.
Yeah, so those would cost an action, but obviously those are still really good at being a single action. So like that could still definitely be worth it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, at worst, it's almost like if you're using Thorough Inquiry, it's like all in the rogue card, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
I mean, succeeding by 5 on that too, right? Which happens
Yeah,
most of the time,
yeah.
but even so, I think the card is really good and really interesting. You could start with this if you're Father Mateo, but I mean, what do you think of being a skill card? How does that change the design for you, do you think?
Well, I mean, obviously it has the text of if the skill test is successful.
Mhm.
And so I think that is the key point. It's a limiter, right? Because they could easily have made this an event of like a fast event or something that's like play anything. But I actually like that it's a skill card, because it leans more into the fact that you have to at least succeed. So there's never a guarantee that you are able to technically get this, which I'm okay with. Like if you like lose this off of an auto fail, then like don't draw auto fails. So like, you know,
But you won't lose it, right? It just goes in your discard pile, and you can try it
that's
again
true.
later.
Yeah.
I
If
don't know
only
how.
Silas could take this.
Ooh, he's a Nate. It is a Nate.
It is innate.
Well, one other this comment. I know it's impossible. They should not have done this, but wouldn't it been kind of interesting if the card, true to its like flavor here, required you that you picked something you played in the last deck you played?
Oh gosh. That's funny.
Right? Like you're limited to just like whatever you played as, Ursula, your last deck, or that would be kind of interesting. But obviously that's crazy. But I wonder if it came about because of some kind of discussion like that, and this is the playable version.
Yeah.
Okay, let's move on. We've got already an hour on the clock and 3 more cards to go, but really 6. Well, really
Wow.
3. Blood of Kinyan. A very cool art here. This is guy with snakes for arms, so it's almost like Spectral Razor, but
Hey.
even more. Clairvoyant, Hunter, and you guessed it, Sorcerer. Let's look at the list. Okay, we've got Agnes Akachi, Dexter Gloria, Jacqueline, Marie, Michael McGlenn, Tony Morgan, Zoe, and Zoe. I just feel like we see these names over and over.
It's mostly Mystic, but because Hunter is there, that gets Michael, Tony, and Zoe.
Mm-hmm.
I think.
That's right. We did see them with the Mauser a second ago too.
Yeah.
By a second, I mean like 15 minutes ago. All right. 2-cost event. It's a spell too. Fight, you may use your willpower instead of your combat for this attack. For each empty hand slot you have, you get +2 skill value and deal +1 damage for this attack. If this attack defeats a non-elite enemy, your Will York. Add that enemy to the victory display and attach Blood of Kinyan to it. That part is a little sad that you lose the spell altogether, but okay.
I just realized, why is this 3 XP and we didn't talk about it last time? That's kind of weird.
Oops. I just thought
my
about
bad.
that too. I said earlier that it was all 5 XP cards, and
I
clearly
was like, this is a 5 XP card? That's maybe okay. And I'm like, oh, right, this is 3 XP? I think this card might be really good.
Yeah, okay. So there's an interesting idea, right? That maybe you don't have anything in your hand slots. And the reason why you might not is, well, maybe you're Agnes and you just don't have anything there. And you're Jacqueline, same reason.
Yep.
Or you're one of the other investigators and you're kind of stuck without your weapon for some reason. Maybe they got confiscated because you're Michael McGlenn.
Yep.
So I think that like quote unquote downside of the empty hand slots is true, but this kind of fulfills an interesting like fight event that is better once you haven't gotten those other cards out.
Yeah. I think the only thing I could say is I cannot wait to put Bandolier 2 on a deck and have this out.
That's really so cool. Good. Yeah. So you
the snakes are coming out of the Bandolier.
So +4 damage?
Yeah.
No.
Yes.
Well, yeah. Because they're still hand slots. Yeah.
They're still hand slots. They just can only fill firearm slots or weapons or something.
Michael McGlenn can do that too. He's got the Viola case, right?
The Viola case. Yep. Yeah. And honestly, this is pretty good in him, I think. At least for an emergency. I think that the trick with Michael McGlenn is that like it's like unless you've just drawn confiscation, it's gonna be really unlikely you're not gonna have something in your hands. So that's the downside, I think.
Joey the Rat here.
Right, exactly. So Joey can sell everything and then have snakes come out of his arms as well.
I kind of like this.
Yeah, no, I think it's really good. And I think specifically, it's really good at only 3 XP. If this was any higher cost, I'd be like, okay, it's a little rough. But 3 XP is so good.
Yeah, this is a good place to have this kind of effect. I mean, think about the other events that we have that deal damage. I mean, specifically like 3 or 4 damage even. So the 4 XP Guardian one, the Fang of something or other. Yeah. That one does, I think, 4 damage.
I think so. +3, yeah. I think that's right.
Mm-hmm. That one's a great card that I think people don't play enough. And this one feels like it too, but it's only level 3, and it seems appropriately costed here. You're right that like you probably have things in your hand slots, but if you're going to put this card in your deck, maybe you don't always. So
that's fair.
Yeah, cool card, I think. All right, let's move on to these guys. We've got move this way. We've got 3 copies of Sacred Oath. So this is a myriad card, 5 XP, but really kind of less because you get all 3 of them, kind of. Cultist, Cursed, Silver, Twilight deck only, fast myriad. They had to put lots of things on that line. Let's grab who all of those people are. I think it's a pretty good bunch. We've got Amina. No, it's not actually that many. Amina, Calvin, Diana, Parallel Gem, Kaku, Patrice, Preston, Rex, Parallel Wendy. Right, got the cursed ones in there. Actually, kind of a small number. Okay.
Yeah, actually really small.
Is Preston and Diana the only Silver Twilights?
I think so.
And Diana might be the only cultist?
Well, maybe, yeah. That makes sense.
Okay. So, these are all 1-cost assets that you put into play for, just fast, into an arcane slot, but like what's the other one?
Yeah.
Empower Self?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Okay. These all take up one arcane slot. Okay. Uh, they all have the reaction when you draw a non-weakness something or other treachery. Discard a copy of Sacred Oath from play. So it could be this one, it could be the other ones. Cancel that treachery's revelation effect and discard it. So this one is Pact or Terror. This is the Oath of Loyalty. This one is the Oath of Wisdom. It's Omen or Power. Those tend to be pretty tough encounter cards. And then this one is a Curse or Hex. So you need to have the right one in play first in order to discard the other ones to get the cancellation effect.
Yes. So if I recall, the way that this is worded when it says discard a copy of Sacred Oath,
Mm-hmm.
So let's say let's say we have all three of them out, and you draw Omen or Power, you can discard the other ones and then keep the one that says Omen or Power still, right?
That's right. So if there's like 3 Ancient Evils, which is an Omen, I believe,
That's an Omen.
you get this one out first, then put the other 2 in play as well, and then if you somehow draw the 3 Ancient Evils yourself, then you can discard all 3 eventually. Just discard the other 2 first and this one last.
Yeah. Obviously, I think the tricky bit about this is the fact that you have to play them before you draw the card.
Mm-hmm.
Because like plenty of the nastiest treacheries in the entire game are terrors, hexes, powers, and so you'd gladly want to discard them for one resource, right? Fast.
Mm-hmm.
Like terror can obviously get rid of Frozen in Fear. I think power is an interesting one because there's a lot of like I mean, I think notably because of Circle Undone, a lot of these traits are present in there, but there's a lot of powers in Circle Undone that are really nasty as well. As well as curse and hexes are the ones that usually like stick around, that you're like give negative benefits or detriments, right?
Yeah.
So like I think one, obviously this is tech. This is a tech card for sure because I don't think that this is generically good. For example, in campaigns that are more focused around their enemies, for example, like say Innsmouth, I feel like this wouldn't be really good in Innsmouth. Like it's more the enemies that are really the problem in that campaign.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
But
I can see that. I think that
yeah,
it's tough to, yeah, this is tech for Circle and Done for sure. It's
yeah,
tough to know if like that scenario has the right one. So you want to say it's tech in general because if you're not playing, a scenario that has the right ones, you don't want to put that one to play right away. I don't know.
I mean, what do you mean right away? Because they're
Well,
not forced, right?
no, that's true. But if you're, well, I guess it's what resource, but you could put it into play as soon as you get it. But
Yeah,
it may not be doing anything compared to say a ward of protection.
of course. Yes,
Yeah.
I think that definitely is the comparison there. Um,
One other thing,
uh,
fast means that you can only play it on your turn because it's an
yes,
asset. So back to your point about you can't just, it might be sitting in your hand and you can't play it when you drew the cards. You have to wait for the next round, basically.
right. Yep. No, absolutely. So I mean, I think that the tricky bit is that like it's hard to evaluate these without going through like literally every single omen or power and things like that and be like, oh yeah, I'd really want to get rid of this or like stuff like that. Um, so yeah, I mean, I think that's kind of where I am. It's just like it's a little tricky, but it can be really good.
Yeah, so cancellation of treacheries can be really good. The comparison is always going to be made to the existing cancellation tech, which as a mystic, Amina can take, Diana can take, Jim can take, Kawaku can take already. Kawaku can take a couple different kinds of things. Calvin gets access to spirit cards, which ward 1 or 0 and 2 are as well anyway. And Preston gets like counter espionage. Patrice does get ward protection, but for the reasons why ward is not usually run in her, this actually is really good. So you don't always have ward in your hand at the time you actually want to cancel something. This actually kind of extends your hand. You get to play the asset when it shows up, no problem. It's fast. It's cost 1, and then you can let them sit around until you draw those traded treacheries. So I think it's really cool in Patrice.
Slight, tiny spoiler for the end of Circle Undone. But guess what's a pact? Whispered Bargain.
Ooh.
the place of doom or the guy attacks you.
Yeah.
So that seems really good.
Yeah. Yeah. I'll be interested to play this in Patrice specifically. Preston,
And
maybe.
honestly, it like all three of these only costing 5 is huge. I think
Mhm.
that's huge. Like if they costed any more than that, it'd be like this is rough. But 5 by itself for 3 cards is enough where you're like, okay, I can probably fit this in, somewhere in the upgrade pipeline, right?
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah. So it's slightly cheaper than. I mean, you can't take 3 copies of Ward 2, but
right.
maybe it's not that big of a deal that doesn't cancel anyone else's.
Yeah.
I think I like it in Patrice. I'm just not sure that anyone else this is their best solution. But maybe.
Calvin, maybe. I don't know.
Well, Calvin can take Ward, right? He can
Oh,
just protect
right.
himself.
That's true.
And he gets Ward 2 for that matter.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not to mention in Survivor you get a Test of Will, which does the trick without paying resources or taking core.
Sure.
All right. Let's move on to our last card, which is this one, On Their Heels. Let's get the Detective, Hunter, Reporter, Police on the screen. And I think this is a super interesting card as well. We've got Daryl Simmons, Joe Diamond, Michael McGlenn, Rex, Roland, Tommy, Tony, Trish, and Zoe, Parallel Zoe. Okay, so we got 3 different parallel investigators this time. I don't think we've seen Roland in a while because he's detective. He must have been on the
detective and he's agency
detective.
Because he works for people.
Yeah, so he must have been the same as Trish, the trench armor or something. But
yeah, exactly.
It wasn't that interesting for him in the same way that it was for Trish. Okay, how about this card though? Again, this one is a level 5 card, costs you 2. It's an asset, it's a talent. Detective, Hunter, Police, Reporter, deck only, like we just said. Only 1 of these per investigator. Comes into play with 5 leads. Trivia question: what's the only other card with leads on it?
Oh, there's a card with leads on it?
Technically, yes. Anyway, we'll come back to that answer later. After you enter a location with 1 or more enemies, spend 1 lead and exhaust On Their Heels. Either discover 1 clue at your location or deal 1 damage to an enemy at your location. So it's kind of a I don't know. It's kind of like working a hunch or a B cup every time you enter a location with an enemy. That's pretty good. 5 times.
That's really good.
Yeah.
Um,
when I did a video weeks ago now about like rogues, I really wanted something like this, something where it's like it's like On the Trail, but for rogues. Of course, we only have a couple of rogues here, Tony and Trish, who are and Michael, kind of the ones that I wanted to have this effect where you're going after an enemy, you get some benefit to discover a clue, and then you can deal with the enemy in whatever way you choose. And this is on an asset, but I think a very successful design for theming and the effect.
I think it's really cool. Personally, okay. I think here's the thing. I think that the 1 damage mode is obviously like the weaker version of this.
Mm-hmm.
Getting 5 free clues for that's great. I think that's really good. I think that 5 free damage is not quite enough in my opinion. Because obviously you have to at least enter a location with an enemy. And so while yes, that can help you get over like 3 damage humps, for example, or 3 health humps. I think it's like not as good. At least that's my opinion.
It's not. I think it's there as a a failsafe, but it also is there for your whippoorwills or acolytes.
Yeah, I think the tricky thing also is that it's hard to like play this card again because it's slotless and it's limit 1.
Yeah.
So like it's like almost impossible for you to discard this to be able to play it again.
Mm-hmm.
Not impossible, but
it's hard. It's hard.
It's hard. So like it's hard to get any extra value out of just 5 clues. And like 5 clues, I feel like it is a lot. It sounds like a lot, but also like it like it has to be like over the course of kind of 5 rounds. Obviously you have to exhaust it. So it's basically an extra deduction a turn, which is good, but for only 5 rounds, and you need to have an enemy there, which is the important bit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that it's still like maybe slightly I mean, there's other ways to do this, I think, which are cheaper or in class. So like
Yeah.
the level 5, uh, what was it, Antikythera, right? That one is like pretty good for
Right.
getting an extra clue many rounds.
Yeah.
This is without a test, I suppose, which is nice. It kind of preemptively deals with enemies if you need to. I think it's just very versatile,
That's true.
which is
I
nice.
I do like this, at least for the damage mode against, for example, acolytes, where you have to move to the location and then this can just kill them immediately.
Mm-hmm.
That's really good. So there's a benefit there
Testless,
for sure.
fast, free. That all that kind of stuff is unusual in one
That's true.
package.
Yeah. Okay. Now that I'm thinking about it, I think I'm seeing the value. I think that this card, it doesn't look splashy per se. It's like its value is just basic, but it has a lot of value.
You just have to make sure that your investigator who has this can do something else with their turn.
Right. You're like, oh, the dog's already killed the guy. What am I gonna do?
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, I looked up the card that had leads. I'm sad to say I couldn't think of it myself, but
It is Breach the Door.
yay, because
Yeah.
it doesn't use leads,
No.
but it can make something have leads.
That's right. That's why I was careful to say has leads, not uses leads.
Right.
If you have Alice Luxley, you get both of these things for free.
Hey, that's pretty good. Wait, sorry. That is. How does she work again?
After you discover a clue, you deal damage to an enemy.
Right. Well, okay. So I was saying, but then you also have to have Greta, so that when you deal the
Ooh.
damage, you can get a clue.
Ooh, okay, that too.
Yeah. Then
But-
again, the Greta plus Alice train has already been like a huge
Yeah,
combo enabler, especially like in Roland, for example.
yeah. Which is why this
I
is
would-
cool in Roland, right? Because you could,
This is really cool in Roland. Yeah.
yeah, you could use it to, depending on what ally you have in play, if any, you can, either defeat an enemy and then get another clue, or, use the clue to deal damage to an enemy, defeat that enemy, and then get your own clue from your ability.
Yep. I think so. The tricky bit about this card is going to be, for example, someone like Daryl, where he doesn't necessarily have a good way to deal with the enemy if he's the only one going in.
Mhm.
So he might need to have someone else go first, keep the enemy around, and then he enters, get the thing, and then they deal with the enemy. I don't know.
But he's the reporter. He's going in after the story is already happening, right?
Yeah. Also, that's a good way. For example, let's say that someone else draws an enemy. Daryl can put the evidence on the enemy. He walks over there,
Ooh.
gets the clue from the because this is about his camera, right?
Yeah.
Gets the clue from the location with the enemy, and therefore gets the evidence off the enemy, right? Okay, actually, that's pretty cool.
And then there's Trish.
I mean, this seems freaking nuts. Trish. Yeah, that seems nuts.
I like it. But even,
Turns out-
Tony, like you walk in, you get your action to deal with the enemy already, you get the clue for free. That's nice. I think
That does seem good.
like literally everyone, I mean, Zoe can get a resource for probably engaging the enemy. That's okay. Tommy's like okay, but I think all the rest of them...
Michael's like, don't kill him. I wanted to shoot him.
That's right.
Yeah.
But I mean, Joe's also a detective. I'm not sure it does anything special in him. I was thinking of putting it in his deck when I played him solo, just because of the finale of Edge of the Earth. Because literally every location you walk into has an
You just
enemy.
keep on walking. That's pretty good, actually.
I didn't do it, but I really thought about it. I didn't need it.
I can't believe I didn't think about this, but this is insane in true solo, right?
Yeah.
Like this is there are absolutely locations where you can just walk through them and don't have to deal with anything.
So it exhausts at least. So you
Oh, it does exhaust. You're right. Oh, my bad.
but still.
Yeah.
You can wait on it, right? Just you spend the rest of your turn like playing stuff or dealing with an enemy or something, and you just use it to collect your 5 clues, and that's basically everything you need.
I think that was the thing that was tricking me up, because like in true solo, I can see the value of this card way more clearly, because so many locations either have 1 or 2 clues, and so this being able to gather that clue for free reliably at least 5 times is really good. When I'm thinking about like in 4-player, I'm like, I've needed to gather like 30 clues at one point. How is this going to even benefit me?
Right.
But
yeah.
per investigator, so
Actually, I don't even like it in Zoe because you know that your weakness is gonna spawn somewhere else.
Yeah.
Maybe you don't. I mean, I think you're more likely to get those leads off
Yeah.
because like it's very sad to end the scenario and playing this and you can only use it a few times. But I think it'd be really good in Zoe.
Well, I think not only that, but it basically turns Zoe's cross into having 2 damage, right? That
Mhm.
seems really good.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
and then you also play Dakota Garofalo.
Oh yeah. Here's some tech, right? So another way to bust what's her face. Why can't I
Janae.
remember her name? Yeah,
Janae.
Janae,
Yeah.
right? So like you move into location, activate this first, then you activate Janae to move the enemy away. Then you move. Oh wait, no, this is exhausted. Dang it!
You gotta ready the card with
Yeah, yeah,
Bulwark. You gotta get attacked by some
yeah,
other
yeah,
enemy, and then you ready
yeah.
this and move away. There you
Yep, yep, yeah. There you go.
go. All right. Well, that is actually all the cards. So, we have seen them all. I forgot this before, so let's very quickly. We didn't talk about the weaknesses.
No, we did not.
So, to be a completionist, we have to talk about the 4 weaknesses.
Let's do it.
They're over here somewhere. Are they?
Don't see that.
Oh no. Hold on. Okay, we found them. So there's 4, and they're all very similar, although one of them's a little bit different. So we've got Morbid Curiosity. When your turn ends, if you did not successfully investigate this round, take 1 horror, shuffle it back in your deck. How do you get rid of this thing? Well, you can investigate using the ability here. You get -2 skill value for the investigation, and if you succeed, you discard the card. You still get a clue. It's a
Yep.
investigate action. So, all right, let's look at the other 3 that are very similar, and then we'll talk about these 3 together. Disruptive Poltergeist is the same idea, except for you have to successfully evade an enemy, and you take a damage if you don't. Get rid of it by evading an enemy, -2 skill value for this evasion attempt. If you succeed, discard. This one is the fight one. If you did not successfully fight an enemy this round, take 1 damage and shuffle it back in your deck. Fight, again, this one still will do, just like the evade will still evade, this one will deal 1 damage. You get -2 skill value for the attack, though. And let's talk about those together. I think the investigate one is fine, and the other 2 are annoying.
I think they're annoying, yes. I don't think that they're debilitating. I think they're like honestly, I really like the design around them.
Mhm.
Because yes, like it has this clock where you're like, oh, you got to make sure you do this thing this round, so otherwise it'll just shuffle back. But I think the benefit is that it shuffles back, so it gives you some time where you're like, okay, I don't have to deal with this at the moment. And also technically, right, if you're like frenzied on a mystic or something, you can like abate the symptoms of it by fighting in other ways, right?
Yes.
And so
you just need
yeah.
to do some fighting. It's not. These are very similar to the Unspeakable Oaths from Return to Path to Carcosa, except for not. But I think that the difference for these really is that they require an enemy. What if you don't?
That is true.
What if you don't have an enemy?
Well, then it's shuffling back in.
You're taking some Tesla's damage, and it goes back in.
Which is, I mean, as far as weaknesses go, I don't think that's terrible, right?
Right.
If this just like deals you a damage and it shuffles you back in, that's not crazy, right?
No, it's not crazy. But the evade one I think is also a little bit rough because you have to probably take an action to engage an enemy, maybe if you didn't draw it yourself, and if you've got a very bad agility score, like has to be the evade.
1 damage. It's 1. Maybe I'm like,
all right.
This is my being low to the floor play style, but I'm like, it's 1 damage. It's not gonna kill me. It's whatever. It's fine.
Okay, so if you were to get these in your deck and you're,
yeah,
Daisy Walker or something,
yeah,
you would just say, I'm taking the damage forever, and that's just the end.
Well, it's not forever. It shovels back into your deck.
Yeah, well, when you draw it again next round.
It's not going to be next round.
True.
Hey, this also shuffles your deck, so you can put things that were on the bottom of your deck back on top.
Ooh.
Of it, right? So
okay. Hot tech.
Okay. In more realistically,
yeah.
So for example, I always like to compare these cards against, for example, the ones from Edge of the Earth, where in order for you to deal with them at all, you have to have specific cards in your deck that can heal horror or damage, right? These cards, they are nice at level 0 because you'll be like, oh, okay, whatever, I'm gonna be taking some extra damage this scenario. But they're easier to tech into because a lot of classes have ways that are in class to be able to do these things, I think. Um,
So
maybe not investigate for like Guardians, for example, but I don't know.
so like what's an example that you would have of that, like that you could tech into?
So like this, for example, disruptive poltergeist.
Hmm.
So let's see, like mind over matter, right? Because then you could use your book for the evade.
That's true. Okay. That's
That's
yeah.
like was one example.
Okay.
Um,
So there's a
I
few cards that are like that. I think in general, maybe what you want to do is get your like something that gives you a lot of icons.
sure.
But to me, these actually, the least two for sure, I think, are ones where you say, "Hey, my friend who has a very high combat score,
That is true.
you do this.
Yeah.
I'm not doing this. You can absorb the -2 skill value, and I'll be happy to take the damage until things line up. Otherwise, I I don't know. Like I'm not wasting an action to try to get rid of this if I'm not good at it, unless I have got some way to well connected or something. The good news is that at least it still does something, right? It actually can help you fight something. But I think they're annoying more than they are bad, like or not debilitating. The
I
investigate
think
one,
I agree.
I think I can power through and investigate. Like every investigator should probably have some way of dealing with this, but and you also
Yeah.
can choose the location that you're investigating, right?
Yeah.
You can go.
Yeah, I agree. I think that I agree that these two, the evade and the fight ones, are definitely the more difficult than the other two. Obviously the other one, but and yeah, and I think that like, for example, I wouldn't like that. These are the kind of weaknesses where if I draw them as like someone who normally doesn't do this,
Mhm.
I wouldn't like be like we're redrawing, right?
No,
Because
no, yeah,
there are definitely weaknesses that are like that. Where you're like, I am literally never going to be able to deal with this. Like, we should just restart the campaign.
yeah,
Um,
I agree with
so
that.
I think they're fair.
Mhm. I like the investigation one, but this is just sort of a problem where they have the kind of parallelism with these three, and yet investigating, evading, and fighting are not really parallel to each other in the first place. So
Yeah,
the unspeakable oaths got around this. Well, I don't know if they really did, but they were kind of different effects. So bloodthirst made you deal extra damage. The evade one made you evaded unexhausted or unengaged enemy or exhausted enemy or something. And then the investigate one also was the easy one because you just had to get a
no clues. Yeah,
no something with no clues, right? But it let you do the investigate however you wanted. This one I
yeah,
think makes you do it here, so you're using your intellect score. That's tougher, but I think you can figure out a place where you can make that happen.
yeah. I agree.
Okay, this is the last one, which is sort of similar, but it's not. So when you return ends, if you didn't take a draw or resource action this round, take a horror, shuffle this back into your deck, and the way to get rid of it is you just flat out spend 3 resources or discard 3 cards, which is weird. Like 3 resources and 3 cards are not the same thing, but
Yeah,
okay. Like
yeah,
I don't know if I'm ever, unless I'm George or Patrice or something, right? I'm never uh discarding 3 cards.
yeah, yeah. Um, so I think the like, okay, obviously this one is the easiest of the bunch. One, because it doesn't require you to take a test in order to fix it.
Hmm.
Um, and also taking a draw of resource action is like, if I really need to, like, yeah, I'll do it, and it just nothing happens, right? Um, and so it's doesn't require a test not only to get rid of it, but also to abate its symptoms, because the other ones are like, you have to successfully do it,
That's
right?
right. That's right.
And so for this one, I think it is just weird that it's like it's either 3 resources or 3 cards. Maybe they could have done like 2 resources and 2 cards, right? I think that could have worked too.
Hmm.
Um, and otherwise, this one's really easy.
Yeah.
Technically, action wise, this might represent more actions that you're losing by getting rid of it, right? Because you're like, oh, there's 3 resource actions. That could have been 3 actions that you spent drawing resources or something. Um, and so but like the going rate at the moment is 3 resources is a card and an action for emergency cash. So like This is kind of like you're just spending like an action, 2 actions, and maybe a tiny bit more.
Right.
But that's not bad at all.
Yeah. You spend a card for emergency cash, then you spend an action to get rid of this, and you're kind of even.
Then you're even.
Yeah, that's sort of like 2 actions to get rid of a weakness, right?
Yep.
So
there you go.
yeah, this one's much easier. I like the idea with these.
Yes.
So it's a cool little cycle.
Yeah. I think
Yeah, go ahead.
No, I think obviously if they wanted to be like extremely friendly, they would have put the return to Dunwich Legacy text where it's like reaction after you like when you initiate a fight, you get -2 skill value. If you succeed, discard this card, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so they had to make it trickier by having them as action fights, action evades.
Yeah, use your real stat. But again,
yeah.
if you're playing not true solo, then get someone else to do it.
Yep.
Even with down and out, right? Someone else could be holding on to extra resources. They're like, sure, whatever, I'll spend 3 resources. Get rid of this
Preston
for
is
you.
like, I'll give you some money for my inheritance. Because that would work, right?
It would
work. Yeah.
You're spending resources.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. That was a little brief interlude. We're kind of done, but do you want to talk about the specialist cards in general at all? Now we're kind of done with them.
So, yeah, I think my only real point is that I think that more of them should have just been class cards. I think that there are a couple in here that are like genuinely like, okay, this is interesting that this is not locked to a single class. Like I'm thinking about On Their Heels, Memories of Another Life, things like that. I think there's one in here. What was I thinking about? I think I was thinking about like maybe Captivating Performance. I don't know. Maybe Dakota Garofalo or something.
So the ones that are, I mean, notably, you said On Their Heels and Memories of Another Life. Those are ones with 4 traits on them,
right?
And that helps a bit. My concern with a lot of these is that they put traits together that tend to be just in the same class in the first place. Now I get it. Like, why would you have 4 totally random traits to make a class card, or sorry, a non-class card? Because they're supposed to be specialists, so maybe the traits mean something. But I think, as you said before, the traits were never designed to work this way. So it's not a surprise that the cards that have similar flavor to them have similar traits, and they come from similar classes in the first place.
Exactly. Like, I think that they've already done a great job presenting the 5 classes as each being, different ways that the investigators deal with the mythos. And each investigator has their traits to signify how they do that. Like guardians are hunters where they go after the enemies, or they can be wardens where they're like, protecting people. And seekers can, be scholars or specifically from Miskatonic. Rogues are generally, criminals or socialites. And so a lot of these trait words that were used for flavor already have class identities baked into them that they could have just leveraged. And it's interesting to me that they didn't for some reason, right?
Yeah.
I don't know exactly why these cards even came about, because I'm looking at Double Down and I'm like, there's a rogue card. What do you mean it's for criminal, entrepreneur, and socialite? This is just a rogue card. Like,
yeah,
we have so many cards that have to do with gambling and cards. It's already in rogue. What is in rogue?
Yeah. And On Their Heels, I think, is this example of a card that works because detectives and police are guardian, hunters are sometimes rogue, but are also guardian, and then reporters are doing something else. But it makes sense. Those are seekers, or Daryl, I guess. It makes sense that they would be interested in this idea in the first place. But as you say, Double Down is just something that rogues do, period.
Yes. So I think that would have been more interesting, at least in this particular expansion, is, we have 4 neutral cards in this entire expansion, and we have almost 4 to 5 times as many cards that are quote unquote neutral but specialist.
Yeah.
I think that they could have moved maybe 60 to 70% of these cards into various classes and kept like 5 to 6 that were specialist and were genuinely spread out across all the classes.
Yeah.
I think that part of the ones that I like are ones that are not like fixed to a specific role. For example, I always come back to On Their Heels because I think that On Their Heels is like one of the more well-designed ones, because entering a location with an enemy and being able to either get a clue or deal a damage is so broad of an activity,
Mhm.
but it is also focused in its flavor, where it makes sense why these particular traits can do this,
That's right.
right?
That's right.
Um, Whereas so many of the other ones are like, well, yeah, so this is a magic spell, so of course sorcerers can take it, but that's where all the mystics are anyway,
Yep.
right? So I think that's really kind of the downside of these cards is that like they have so much flavor in their traits that were already taken care of by the classes,
Yep.
and it just adds unnecessary confusion, if I'm honest.
So here's my pessimistic outlook here is they came up with cards like maybe this one
Yeah.
on their heels, maybe a few other ones first. And they said, this is a cool idea. But what we need to do is have every investigator in the game be able to take something here. So we want to use every trait at least once. And that requires a lot of cards. And they had that goal. And I mean, even you look at motivational speech, right? This one is just a Charlie Kane card, really.
Yeah.
And the only way to make that work was to fit it into this sort of, awkward, okay, it's civic, but then let's come up with socialite and performer. And it could have been, I mean, again, this one kind of has to exist, at least in the current design for Charlie in this space, but all of these cards don't really justify themselves as being specialists. And I'll just sort of go back to, unfortunately, since they didn't really give us much in the preview article or in the box itself about like what this is supposed to mean, I think people are very confused as to like what are these cards, what makes them specialist, what makes the investigators, the limited number of investigators who can take this, want to take this card in particular. And I'm still kind of at a loss. Like most of these effects are already covered by cards they could take already, and these are not much better or even maybe much more interesting than what they could already get. There's a few exceptions. I think there's a good chunk of these that are like pretty well designed and interesting, but I just kind of feel like with a lot of them that one person wants it, two people want it, and the cost to put them into your deck, whether that's the resource cost or the level, doesn't justify it having this sort of limited access.
Yeah.
Like,
I think
what makes me better, what makes a hunter better at using the Mauser, well, nothing. They could use a different card instead. Right.
I think that part of this is the fact that, like, specifically for motivational speech, right? They wanted to make a card that was powerful, specifically for Charlie Kane, right? And they're like, well, he can only take, well, it could be a neutral card, right? But then anyone could take it. So like we can't have it be so powerful because it's neutral, right? So then in their minds, in my opinion, they could have been like, okay, so how do we actually get this into Charlie Kane's card pool while still making it really good? Well, we can increase the XP level. Oh, but Charlie Kane can only take events, basically, up to level 2. So how do we make it so that it costs more XP, but it's accessible to him? There is no way to do that. So, like, how do they even do that? This is the solution. And then, they put his 2 traits, which are Civic and Socialite, on the card. And they were like, well, this basically means that only Charlie Kane can take it, plus a few other Socialites. And they were like, okay, let's also open up Performers. And they're like, okay, that's where the card is. So like, it's weird because the design team has always had different philosophies when it comes to creating cards, and some of these are very like genuine. Like, I think specifically motivational speech are very bottom up, where they were like, we want a card for Charlie, we want to make it so like this, and then they made it so that it works with him. And then some of these are extremely top down, where they're like, we want something for like the cultists, right? These ones that are like the cultists and the Silver Twilight. So let's make those 3 traits. And how do we make a card that makes sense with those things? Okay, let's do Sacred Oath, right? And so, there's a good variety in a lot of these when it comes to their design. But I think that in both ways, they could have just used existing stuff. I think that even with the cards, for example, on their heels that are that are well designed, in my opinion, they could just have been multi-class cards.
Aha, I was going to bring that up. I was like, how many of these are just better off being multi-class? Because in my opinion, the multi-class cards, I don't remember if I said this last week, were a design success because more people could take them, but they seem to balance them to be, well, if more people can take them, then they're not going to be the very best version of the effect. And that was okay because there was a trade-off. You
Yeah.
get Michael Lee in your deck, well, he's really, really good. But
Yeah.
he's going to cost 5 XP and cost you 4 resources. But you know what? If you want to do this in Amanda, you can do it. If you want to do it Roland, you can do it. That's they're willing to let that the wider access be okay. Here, it's like the opposite. They said, well, not very many people can take it, and it seems to be like they're acting as neutral cards, but then they don't really they're constraining who can take it in very odd ways that doesn't really make any sense. Because we have, I mean, if you want to talk about it as like, well, detectives, hunters, police, reporters, they thematically have something in common as far as like going after enemies for various reasons. That's cool, but you know what? The rogue and guardian classes, especially, and maybe you could throw seeker in there too if you want. They already have those effects in class, and like those ideas about the classes are already covered, and it's not so weird to. I mean, we already can do weird things with the card pool, right? You have, you know, Enchanted Blade and Roland or something. It doesn't make any sense, but the game already said that that's fine.
Yeah.
So
and there's, you know, this game is full of idiosyncrasies to begin with, but like even something like that where like Roland Banks with Enchanted Blade, it's still flavored with the fact that, well, it's a guardian weapon, so it makes sense that he's going to use it to fight things. Like, it's not like, and again, I think this all comes back to my feelings about the classes, because I think that the classes are such a successful piece of design with this game that it feels weird that they abandoned it for these cards.
especially for these. If they had only, you're right, if they'd only done like 25% of these, then we might feel a little different. But since they wanted them to be kind of a, I don't know, like multi-class was for Edge of the Earth, took up a lot of the box. Maybe they wanted this to feel a little bit more special, but I think that's a mistake when you can't actually play these cards in so many of the investigators in the first place. So Edge of the Earth was so good because you could actually try out all those cards in basically everyone in the core set and everyone that you got from the expansion.
And like you said, with maybe only a couple exceptions, the cards were well balanced for the fact that they were multi-class. With maybe one exception.
Cyclopean Hammer?
yeah, that one.
Well, you know.
And like Janae probably in Prophesia. Don't worry about the Seeker Rogue ones, because those are the way too OP.
Prophesia Profana was Seeker all the way.
Oh, that's right. I forgot. Fine. I'm thinking about Janae, because, you know.
Always got to think about Janae. Okay. Yeah, you know, I'm looking forward to playing a few more of these. I've played, I talked about this last time. I played with Dakota. I have not played with any of the others. Is that right? I mean, there's a few things I just want to play for the effects, right? Just to see what it's like to have a dimensional vortex. And I like a few of the other ones. I think Blood of Kenyon seems pretty cool.
It's going to be a fun build around for sure.
Yeah. But there's other ones that I'm like immediately going to forget about, which is not the case with the Edge of the Earth ones. I feel like I've played almost all of those. Well, I mean, it's been years. I know it's been lots of years, but I've played probably almost all of those at this point.
I think the only one I haven't played was the one that swaps you with an enemy.
Ethereal Slip.
Stuff like that, yeah. The event, yeah.
All right. Any last thoughts before we put our first takes on the city cards to rest?
Well, if I am correct, by the time that this video is coming out, the campaign should be out, at least for the Americas. So I'm excited to try these cards out in the campaign.
Yeah, I'm wondering if there's any benefit to running them, or maybe there's at least something dealing with traits of your investigators in the campaign. That might be kind of neat. They've always done a little bit with that, but it might be something that you get more of. I know the tasks are designed to be, they give you suggestions about which traded investigators should take them, but they don't require you to do that.
Right.
All right. Well, thank you as always for joining me, SuperFang99, and I'll look forward to seeing you again in another video in the future, but hope you and everyone else enjoyed thinking about these cards a little more, because it's always, when you get new cards, it takes you a little while for the text even to sink in, and that's starting to happen now for me.
Indeed.
All right, we'll see you next time.
Goodbye.